We begin with Lupin swiping the keys from a pair of guards he's knocked out. One of them stays conscious just long enough to alert Zenigata to the situation. Lupin's target is a diamond worth 10 million, so he's decided to scope out where it'll be on display, identifying the electrified shielding and the pressure alarm among other things. Zenigata interrupts, arriving with a squad to taunt and hopefully arrest Lupin. Lupin manages to outwit the officers chasing him, but Zenigata's still waiting. Spotting a door ahead, he concocts a plan on how to deal with Zenigata. Too bad for him, it's a closet. Feigning unconsciousness, he waits for Zenigata to close the door on them. There's a struggle and Zenigata's voice is heard calling to the other officers. The gang are waiting for Lupin to return when Goemon senses something's off. Zenigata's got them surrounded and tells them to give up. After failing to escape downstairs, Fujiko tells the others to get to the helicopter on the roof. Unfortunately for the gang, the police are waiting. The gang are arrested and berate Lupin for selling out their location. Zenigata throws his driving partner out of the van and breaks off from the police force. Narrowly avoiding a truck that the police failed to evade, the van is driven to a remote location. I don't think there was much doubt that this was Lupin all along, with Zenigata being the captured Lupin. Zenigata figures he was kidnapped to give up the time of the diamond's arrival. Lupin tempts him with food but gets no answer. The chief finds him that night and frees him, making sure he didn't give up the time. Zenigata confirms the time as the 24th at 10 PM, but realises too late he's been duped. Lupin decides to train the gang for a bait and switch on the diamond, as they have about 3 seconds to grab it. It's successful, but Lupin wants to be certain. The training with blindfolds goes a bit less successfully, however. They keep trying anyway, with at least a small degree of success. The gang infiltrates as police officers. Zenigata's ready with a door that completely seals the diamond display room. When the diamond arrives, he doesn't account for Jigen sticking a wedge under the door just as it closes, however. The chief gets ready to disable the electricity for 3 seconds to activate the electrified railing. Upon doing so, Lupin makes his move. Jigen and Goemon follow suit and Fujiko waits to grab it. Zenigata realises the truth, but it's too late. The gang retreat in the confusion, celebrating their teamwork. Definitely one of the more elaborate Lupin disguises Zenigata sequences in this episode. Also a great moment when Zenigata himself gets baited by a Lupin disguise, though one does have to question why he gave up the exact time to the man he thought was the chief. The second half with the gang training to swipe the diamond was also fun to watch, as it gives a bit of insight into just how much planning Lupin likely puts into the majority of his heists. The gang are in Naples, discussing the history of Pompeii and a supposed treasure within. This is punctuated by a passing nun wanting donations. Meanwhile, Lupin is on the run from Zenigata and keeps interrupting the dates of a woman named Lucia. Zenigata manages to grab Lupin, but Lupin sacrifices his jacket to get away. They get caught up in a chase, but Zenigata gets stopped by a line of nuns crossing the road. He still catches up and manages to cuff Lupin again. He fires at him, but the bullets are blocked by a frying pan and only damage his car. Both end up going over the cliffside as a result. Lupin manages to grab a tree and gets hold of Zenigata's handcuff reel in the process. He's saved by the same nun from earlier, and the Pompeii treasure comes up in conversation. She warns him that the treasure is guarded by an army of venomous snakes. Lupin decides to look up various snakes to prepare, despite Fujiko's hesitance to take part. Jigen and Goemon also arrive with a couple of cases of various anti-venom. The gang fly over the treasure chamber and lower Lupin down, attached to a bunch of balloons. The snakes take to biting at the balloons and eventually one gets to Lupin himself. He counters with the anti-venom, but more snakes end up biting. Outside, Zenigata opens fire at the helicopter. A balloon surfaces, but it turns out to be filled with snakes. The gang run and Zenigata is stalled from chasing by the nun passing by and giving thanks to everyone. The nun turns out to be Lucia, having helped smuggle Lupin to safety. She then uses knockout gas on him and locks him in a ruin, wanting the treasure for herself. She doesn't notice that Lupin tied the handcuff reel to her car. Using this, she unwittingly pulls the cage door out and frees Lupin. He's also prepared with a tracker on the reel, telling the others to get ready. Lucia decides to elope with one of her boyfriends, but her first choice, a man named Vongole, turns out to be already married. Or not, as it was Fujiko and Goemon in disguise. Second up is Lasagna, but she's turned away because he has a bunch of children. This one was Jigen. Finally, she meets up with Macaroni, questioning whether he's married, has children, or is possibly actually a woman. Lupin unmasks at this and she marches off. She then freaks out at Zenigata, who chases after her. The following Lupin manages to reel in the treasure while they do so. Inside is a bunch of old bottles. Goemon looks them up and it turns out they're bottles of various antivenom. While not a Broadway episode in setting, it's definitely one in spirit, likely because it has the same writer. High in comedic content and pretty well paced as an episode. I can appreciate how a lot of little things like the handcuff reel come back into play later, not to mention Lucia's involvement and how her boyfriends set up the climax. An old man has been given about a week to live before his body shuts down entirely. His doctor has managed to create a mind-swapping machine, with Fujiko providing Lupin as an ideal candidate. Lupin's getting ready for a date with Fujiko despite the others' usual eye-rolling. Zenigata chases after him, but ends up crashing out thanks to Lupin's trousers blinding him. Lupin himself is unable to dodge a pair of trucks. Lupin wakes up no worse for wear, but quite literally caught in the doctor's net. Fujiko wheels in the old man and Lupin has the plan explained to him. Obviously he's against it, but gets electrified unconscious. Lupin and the old man are strapped to the machine and despite some struggling on Lupin's part, the experiment's a success. The old man decides he wants Fujiko for a wife, but she stops him as part of the deal was to get her hands on a map of a gold mine. The old man keeps it hidden in a mechanical lion, but discovers that Lupin's already stolen it. Lupin hides out with the gang as the old man arrives. He says he'll give the map back for his body, but no deal. The old man swipes the map away, but Goemon blocks him from leaving. As he talks about the mind-swapping machine, Jigen then pistol whips him, noting he's always wanted to do that. The old man refuses to return Lupin's body, with even a snake pit not swaying him, seeing as he's going to die soon either way. The gang let him go for now, but decide to keep tabs. Zenigata's decided to go undercover as a woman to apprehend Lupin. Lupin's annoyed that he thinks that would even work, but the old man seems enthusiastic. Zenigata cuffs the old man and Jigen moves in with the knockout gas. Taking them to a bathroom, Lupin disguises as himself as part of a plan to get his body back. Visiting the doctor, he asks for another mind swap, this time using Zenigata as a host. Outside, Jigen and Goemon grab the gold mine map from Fujiko as revenge. They also show her Lupin's body in their possession. The mind swap is done and Lupin, now in Zenigata's body, prepares for the next step. Jigen and Goemon bring Lupin's body in and Lupin asks for another swap. The doctor does so and Lupin thanks him for giving his body back. Zenigata chases after the old man when he learns what happened. The gang decides to wreck the machine so it can't be used again. They wish Zenigata well as he chases after the old man. Sure, the mind swapping effect is temporary. Well, maybe it is, seeing as Zenigata's no worse for wear next episode. I have to say that this one feels a bit more in line with earlier Series 1, what with the gang being a bit more hostile towards each other than usual at this point, even if they are still loyal friends at least. Not to mention the premise of a mind-swapping plot itself feels like it'd be more in line with that kind of time frame. Fujiko is in Paris, writing to Lupin about Sam and Whitney, an expert in food mice and diamonds, holding an auction. Lupin's enthusiasm almost ruins Goemon's training. He considers himself not focused enough, so Lupin and Jigen decide to attend without him. They don't make any bids themselves, but listen in on the other bids. The final item, the White Moon, goes to a woman by the name of Madame de Booth. Or Booth, we don't get a spelling of her name in English. She faints as she acquires it thanks to a calling card set up by Fujiko. Fujiko visits Lupin to tell him she's visiting Canada with Whitney, but still wants him to steal the diamond. Zenigata sits in as security for Debussy's diamonds while Lupin and Jigen dig underneath. A mispronunciation of her name sends Zenigata into the safe, revealing that a group of mice have beat Lupin to her diamonds. Lupin and Jigen chase after them, but the mice escape by chewing through a wall. They try to head the mice off at the pass, only to discover they're passing off the diamonds to a large fish. They then gather round a time bomb and let themselves get blown up. Fujiko enjoys a meal with Whitney, learning the ways of the gourmet. Lupin and Jigen have tracked down the fish to Canada, having patched up a surviving mouse. Coincidentally, Goemon is also in Canada, continuing his tree training. Anyway, Lupin decides to do some fishing to get to the diamonds. The fish proves stronger than Lupin anticipates, however. Strong enough to bite into Lupin's boat and cause it to blow up even. Lupin and Jigen follow the fish to an underground lab owned by Whitney. Whitney catches the fish and cuts it open, showing Fujiko the diamonds inside. He then reveals he plans to use Fujiko as bait to draw out Lupin, taking her captive. Lupin searches Whitney's house, not noticing a slip of paper taking his fingerprint. He finds Fujiko suspended in a large room and Whitney greets him. Whitney explains that being a mouse expert doesn't get him enough cash, using the mice to steal diamonds after baiting people with his auctions. Not to mention he sees Lupin as a rival for stealing a lot of diamonds himself. He then calls forth a bunch of diamonds and sets them flying around the room. They're too fast for everyone to react, but Goemon comes to their rescue. Whitney then activates a self-destruct as the gang escape. They don't get far, as the front seats of the car they use has ejector seats. With this, Fujiko ends up back in Whitney's clutches. Whitney shows Fujiko Lupin's fingerprint, inserting it into a computer. He then fires a snowball cannon, now tuned to chase Lupin. Eventually it closes in on him, seemingly crushing him. Whitney heads out to look over his victory, but Lupin's still alive. The mouse he saved dug a hole for him. The hole leads to the lab, where Lupin got one of Whitney's fingerprints. The gang mock Whitney as they watch him try to outrun the snowball. I do like that Whitney is, pun not intended, pretty fleshed out by Lupin antagonist standards. As a rival diamond hoarder, he certainly gets a decent motive for going up against Lupin. He also gets a pretty creative way of getting what he wants in the form of his animal training, even if his disregard for them is what eventually brings him down. Next time, diamonds at the Olympics, a fight for a racehorse, a bank cashing in on Lupin's reputation, and a pair of brothers trapping Fujiko in a safe takes us up to episode 144. Until then.